brothers and sisters, we've all turned up the radio to hear Brother Jimmy Lakey, from coast to coast and shore to shore. Now raise your voice, oh, let us all, Jimmy Lakey, get out of bed, Jimmy Lakey, raise your voice, Jimmy Lakey, Lakey, hey, can't live without it with Jimmy Lakey, Jimmy Lakey.
I just looked at the cameras, the monitor, and saw myself dancing, and I said, that looks like Donald Trump's dance, and that's what it's supposed to look like. Hey, everybody, good morning to you. Lakey here, unleashed from the house of Lakey. Pleasured, pleased, and I'm thrilled to be here. I hope you feel exactly the same way. It's Friday, the 10th day of October, the year of our Lord, 2025. Lots of things to get to. Well, evidently, the Nobel Peace Prize Committee has decided that Donald Trump is not worthy of a peace prize. Anybody shocked by that? We'll dive into this. By the way, I do have a question. Why did everybody all of a sudden become obsessed with, is he going to get the Peace Prize? Is he going to get the Peace Prize? I thought it was a little overhyped, a little overmentioned, and it became kind of a talking point that I was getting bored with by yesterday, going, does he deserve the Peace Prize or not? I don't really care. It doesn't matter about the accolades you get. I just thought I was getting tired of the discussion anyway. So anyway, the Nobel Peace Prize was hyped up, and did you buy into it? Did you think evidently the answer has come down, and they have said no to Donald Trump for his Nobel Peace Prize? I do want to dive into this because I think it was I think it was almost a distraction. Every time they had an interview on all the networks like a Fox News or somebody, they were like, well, in closing, do you think he deserves a Peace Prize? Who the hell cares if he deserves a prize? It's kind of like every time you interview an actor or you talk about a director, it has to go, does he deserve the Academy Award? Does he deserve the participation trophy? I don't watch a lot of award shows, and so I don't put a lot of merit in them. But here's what we do know. This is a breaking news story this morning that evidently President Trump has been. It goes to Maria Corina Machado, despite calls for Trump to receive the reward. Anybody know who Maria Corina Machado is? I don't know who that is. Maria Corina Machado is a Venezuelan opposition leader described as a brave and committed champion of peace by Jorgen Watzefredes, the chairperson of the Norwegian Nobel Committee. She's receiving the Nobel Peace Prize for her tireless work in promoting democratic rights for the people of Venezuela and for her struggle to achieve a just and peaceful transition from dictatorship to democracy in Venezuela. So Maria Corina Machado. And again, we talked about this earlier this week. If it was let's say an Irish person won, we would have said Charlie O'Hannigan, Flanagan. You have to, for some reason, we like to pronounce the Mexican or Hispanic or Latino names with all the R's and all that stuff. But anyway, we'll come back. Let me come back to that because I have a few thoughts on this Nobel Peace Prize, and I'm not bothered that Trump didn't get it. Would it be cool and neat and pretty if he did? Yeah, but it's fine. Settle down about the Peace Prize. Stop the talk about the Peace Prize. And it's kind of irrelevant, and I think it's distraction. All right, the Middle East ceasefire, though, is underway. The Israelis have begun their withdrawal. Yesterday, I used the incorrect phraseology. I said they would be backing down to the yellow line, which would give Israel about 51% control of the, as far as territory that they're controlling of the Gaza Strip. It's actually about 53%. So they're going to get about 53% back up, and then that will allow the Hamas terrorists and demons to go find the hostages. They should be released, I believe, sometime Monday night Monday night into Tuesday. Sometime, we're 8 hours or so away, so we'll watch that. But so far, the ceasefire is holding, and we shall see how that all holds together. There's a lot of time for this to screw up, a lot of celebration, and I'm sure there's a lot of angst and worry among the families thinking, goodness gracious, I hope this thing stays together so that my family members can be released back to me or their remains can be released back to me. I got a lot of great guests. We're going to talk about the 2026 elections coming up with Wayne Murrow. We have a lot of wins. Anybody tired of winning yet under President Trump? He's had a very successful first several months in office, but you have to ask yourself, is the enthusiasm and the record going to be remembered come next November? So we'll talk about that with Wayne Murrow in just a bit. Also, Michael Letts is going to be on the show talking about law enforcement, lawlessness in America, and the prosecution and indictment of Letisha James. We shall get into that. And I still want to have a conversation real quickly with my Catholic brethren and sistren and just kind of talk about Pope Leo and give me your thoughts and perceptions on that. So let's dive into the morning. It's the House of Lakey. I've been unleashed from the confines of corporate radio, and here I am behind a microphone in front of a camera having a conversation with you. Was anybody else brought up into this hype of will he get the Nobel Peace Prize? I don't think one time in a conversation I heard myself ask the question, will he get the Nobel Peace Prize? I didn't really care. And I think I was thinking this through last night as I was considering it, that I don't really care. I gave up on accolades and slaps on the butt a long time ago. You know, I always said when I was on the radio with the iHeart Kingdom, I was what would I say? Say it with me if you watched it back then. I was the redheaded stepchild of talk radio. I was mismanaged. I had crappy people that were directors. I had people that didn't give a rat's patootie. I was put on stations that they didn't give a rat's patootie. A matter of fact, I was put on such throwaway stations by the iHeart Kingdom as the redheaded stepchild. I tuned it in the other day, and they are still 11 months later running a promo for my show. That's what a bunch of jackwagons really cared about the talk radio station I was on. You thought I was just saying I'm the redheaded stepchild here. No, they're still running promos with my name on that very station. I heard it the other day. Sean Hannity now, Jimmy Lakey in the morning. Lakey got his ass fired from there 11 months ago. But I was controlled by lazy people that were not necessarily all that excited about talk radio, didn't know talk radio. All the talk radio people were fired. And we were being programmed by good people, but they didn't know talk radio. So anyway, what I'm saying is I'm used to not getting accolades. So when people say, oh, Donald Trump, he really deserves an accolade. Listen, there's a lot of us in life that deserve accolades. There's a lot of us in life that deserve promotion. But if you sit around and I guess hitch your wagon to the horses, someone else is going to promote you and carry you and fluff you up a little bit, you're probably going to be greatly disappointed. And so all this talk of Donald Trump needs the Nobel Peace Prize, maybe it'd be nice, but you know what? It doesn't overshadow his accomplishments. It still makes him a very great peacemaker. It makes him a person that has done great things. And for some reason, we just wanted to have that trophy on his mantle. I never got into that. I didn't get into that because I was never with a radio station that ever gave me any accolades. Shoot, they did good to give me a key to the door. They gave me psychotic producers that I was told one time, don't look them in the eye because they're possessed. I'm just not, I don't care. I don't care about the Nobel Peace Prize. Donald Trump did not get the Nobel Peace Prize. I'm sure this lady, Maria Corina Machado, can I say it like a normal person? Maria Corina Machado. It's not as fun. She got the Peace Prize. Who cares? It's going to be the talk of the day. Donald Trump snubbed for the Peace Prize. Listen, there's a lot of other things going on in the world besides some bureaucratic, elite, prissy boys over in Europe handing out prizes and trophies and ribbons like it's field day in the elementary school. I don't care. It doesn't matter. The Nobel Peace Prize Committee can bend over and shove something up their patootie like a trophy for the Peace Prize. It doesn't matter. But it's just amazing how that has become the news narrative in the last 24 to 48 hours. Well, if this one doesn't get him the Peace Prize, nothing's going to get the Peace Prize. Who cares? It's kind of like I would do a fantastic show on the iHeart Kingdom and say, if this doesn't get me, they're going to really get me out of this hellhole. Nope, that's not. They're going to keep me here because they can underpay me here. So anyway, everybody stop with the Peace Prize talk, would you? Knock it off. I don't care. He wasn't going to get it. He didn't get it. The elites of the globalists don't like Donald Trump. You just have to suck it up and don't worry when the globalist elite pansies don't give you the prize or the recognition. You're never going to be recognized for your good work, your good deeds, your good efforts by globalist elite people who really wish you were dead. These were the people behind closed doors that wanted him locked up in prison for the rest of his life. These are the people in the world that are surprised he has survived an assassination attempt. These are the people that think that they really agree a lot of the times that the American government and we are the great Satan, and that we should be more compassionate and let all these illegals just stream into our country anytime they want to. Let them come on in. It's all going to be okay. That's who we're dealing with here. So how it became such a spun up frenzy about the Nobel Peace Prize and Donald Trump, is he going to get it? I think it's a BS talking point. I think it was lazy and will be lazy all day long on the part of these journalists, because there's other things to talk about, and to raise expectations up there only to know you're going to get disappointed is stupid on everybody's part. So knock off the Peace Prize talk, would you? Again, I grew up in talk radio, did 20 years. I started talk radio when I was in my 20s, and they told me my target demographic was about 35 plus is really where I should shoot for minimum, and 35 to 54. I was 28 years old, and I just happened to have a voice that sounded like an old guy, but I'm like, really? I don't know anything about 35-year-olds. I'm fresh out of college, really, and I'm doing talk radio. So listen, I was the redheaded stepchild, didn't get any accolades, never have gotten accolades, don't care about the accolades, and I never based my self-worth off those accolades. So please, right now, from the lexicon, stop the crappy talk about the Nobel Peace Prize. He wasn't going to get it. He did not get it. And what the heck does it matter whether some little pansy boy elitist over in Europe decided to vote for our president, Donald Trump, to get a trophy? It doesn't matter at all. Yeah, I'm sure he'd feel good about it, but stop it. Knock it off. It was never going to happen. Got that off my chest. I feel better. All right, speaking of... I just, all morning long, I'm watching the news, and they're talking about the Peace Prize. The Peace Prize is coming out. He's been snubbed. And I'm like, did you ever think he was going to get it? Knock that crap off. It never was, and I'm tired of it. All right, the Middle East ceasefire is holding. I do have this story, and I have a question, and I do not mean any offense to my Catholic brothers and sistren out there. I don't mean any harm to you. But I have a question. How long does is there anything that is Pope Leo, and I mean this sincerely, is he doing anything to make the church, if you will, more relevant to what it should be? The Pope steps up campaign against Trump, according to a headline this week. Pope Leo stepping up his campaign against President Trump. According to Reuters, Leo met with American bishops in the Vatican on this Wednesday, urged them to speak out against the Trump administration's policy of deporting millions of illegals. Pope Leo, who was elected in May, the first ever American pontiff, was reportedly handed dozens of letters from immigrants and left-wing activists complaining about the injustices they're facing. And according to El Paso Bishop Mark Seitz, says our Holy Father is personally concerned about these matters, and he got a bunch of letters from a bunch of whining illegal criminals, and Pope Leo says, guys, you ought to preach against this President Trump. And I'm sitting here thinking, first of all, is this really a top priority when I look at the gospel of Jesus Christ? When I study the Bible, I don't think preaching for open borders and preaching and saying, yes, you've got to just let the lawbreakers break the law, I don't find that anywhere in the teaching of Jesus. And if this is what the Holy Father, so-called Holy Father, is teaching, then he's antithetical to the teachings of Jesus. Jesus never said, he's told us what not to do and what to do, but I don't ever call him say, just let people break laws all the time. It ain't no deal. And all of you apostles, you go out there and you go to your sermons and tell people to break the laws. No, Jesus taught, render to Caesar what is Caesar. He taught to obey the laws of your land, because you're in the world, but you're not of the world. So do what you got to do here, but your reward is in heaven. And so from the picture last week, we talked about this last Friday, of the Pope standing there talking about global warming last week at some elitist conference in his white robe, and he's putting his hand on a block of ice that they were probably going to send to a carving contest later on, but he's blessing the ice so the ice caps can heal. And now he's telling American bishops to preach against Donald Trump. Let me ask you, I heard that the numbers of the Catholic Church are growing, but with this type of irrelevant, erratic behavior, why the hell would you be a part of it? I just don't understand it. I don't get it. Maybe I'm misinterpreting something. I'm just reading the stories that evidently the Holy Father has told bishops in America that they should preach out against Donald Trump's deportation policy. And I'm thinking, if you could back that up with scripture, Mr. Leo, I would love to hear it, but until I find the scripture where we're supposed to allow illegal people into our country and to invade our country. And by the way, that deportation policy of President Trump, one of the deportees I talked about yesterday was in Chicago, and he was running a child trafficking and human trafficking whole ring of dozens and dozens of children and young girls in Ohio. I wonder if Pope Leo thinks that we should preach against deporting that son of a gun. as far as I'm concerned, Pope Leo can shut his pie hole. I'm not in a good mood to put up with this crap today. You understand? I'm not in a good mood. If this is the stuff that's really coming out of today's Catholic Church, then it's irrelevant to me, and just wear your robes and blow your incense around and shut the heck up, in my estimation. It really is bothering me to see some of this nonsense coming out. It is just relevant. So feel free, if you're Catholic out there, feel free to speak up here. But if this is what the Pope is saying, that you're supposed to preach against the deportation, then I think I should preach against the Pope, because he's not necessarily following at least the scripture I have. Maybe he wrote his own Bible. Maybe he came up with his own scriptures. But if he did, then put them on the table and let's see if they, I'll put your Bible up against my Bible. It's just not working. So, I am thinking of the brokenness in the world, the humanity. I'm thinking of the starving. I'm thinking of the kids that I work with in Africa. I'm thinking about the broken. I'm thinking about the young ladies that have been raped and pillaged and trafficked by these illegals that we're deporting out of this country. I would much rather the Pope put on his holy garment, his robe and his bathrobe, whatever they wear, and put on the hat and blow the smoke around while he's talking about defending the people that have been raped by this trafficker that was holed up in Chicago, in Big Boy of Illinois State, while running a trafficking ring in Ohio. I'd rather him talk about that. Have you talked about feeding the hungry much, or are you just blessing the ice cubes there, sir? Have you talked about healing the brokenhearted and raising up the sick? I mean, that's what Jesus did. He healed the sick and raised the dead, Pope Leo. I don't think he ever laid hands on an ice cube saying, "Oh, bless the icebergs." I don't think that was it. Evidently, the bastardized version of what the gospel of Jesus Christ is interesting. All right, I got to stop being cranky. Delilah just handed me held up a note and said, "You're cranky today." I am not cranky today. I just have a few things to say. All right, if you're Catholic, feel free to explain to me what's going on. I don't get it. Blessing ice cubes one week and then telling the bishops that they should preach against Donald Trump's deportation policy. If someone can explain that to me, feel free to do so. All right, let me bring you to the program, the first guest. Maybe he will cheer me up in an immense and a magical way. Wayne Murrow's the CEO of the John Birch Society, nonpartisan civics and education organization that endures with the timeless principles of the Declaration of Independence, proclaimed that our personal rights come from God and not by government. Wayne Murrow, the CEO of that great organization, is in the studio with us. Wayne, welcome to the program, sir. How are you?
Good morning. How are you? I guess you're pretty fired up. So the ice cube must be melting by now, huh?
I guess so. Delilah just told me I was very cranky this morning, guy. I'm tired of the Nobel Peace Prize talk. It's irrelevant. Donald Trump did great things, and who cares if some pansy elitist over in Europe give him a trophy? It doesn't matter. Stop talking about it in the news. And the Church of Jesus Christ that I'm a part of, it's not about blessing the icebergs and welcoming child traffickers into the country. It's about saving souls, and we seem to be off message on some of those. I feel better now, Wayne. I got it off my chest.
That's right. Well, that's very true. Well, it's I think you hit it right. There's a lot of globalists have a lot of globalist agenda, and that organization has been preaching a globalist agenda for quite some time and taking people off the true path, unfortunately. But glad you brought attention to that, because that is exactly what we see. And people are getting wised up to that, and they know that this is more a political kabuki theater than reality.
Yeah, it is. And it's globalists. They're all globalist organizations, from the Catholic Church to the Nobel Peace Prize organization, and you can have all of them. I want to dive into something. I know you've been talking a little bit about the United Nations. We had one of your colleagues on yesterday, and I really enjoy what you guys are doing. And I want to come back to the defund act that's going through the Congress that you guys are pitching. We'll come back to that in a second. But I want to kind of go back up high. We've had a lot of victories here recently. Donald Trump has had some great peace deals. He'll tell you firsthand that there's been 8 of them, according to his own count, and he's keeping count, believe me. We just had, I think, a lot of victories. The old joke is, are you tired of winning yet? Then we had the galvanizing moment 30 days ago of Charlie Kirk's assassination. And people saying, well, we're winning. People are galvanized behind the Charlie Kirk thing. The Democrats are making fools of themselves. So we're really going to have a great time in the midterms next year. I want to talk about that. We sometimes are spiking the football, I think, too early, that we're off to, I think, a pretty decent start. But 2026 is a heck of a long ways away. And do we risk becoming very complacent, celebrating victories this year that we think are going to carry us all the way to the next year? But we got to be careful.
You're right. Very complacent. I see that as I travel. the Freedom Patriots that help elect Trump, are very complacent. They think it's like the Bible stories of Saul, right? Hey, we got our leader now; we can go out and remote control. But the left is very active. Jimmy, they're very active, and they're out in the streets gaining momentum. Even though it may be not true, but at least they're gaining momentum because they want power back again in Congress. They really do. And if that happens, all those EOs that are stacked up on President Trump's desk, they don't mean anything because Congress has to pass those and make those laws. So they want their power back. So the call out to the listeners is act like you lost, because that's the approach you should have. We have at our website, thefreedomindex.org, we have these scorecards we print out well, you can get on our website. For every state legislator, as well as congressional, both Senate and the U.S., and you can see the score and how they rate constitutionally. And that's a good start to get the ordinary citizens in your neighborhood actively asking your representative, are you voting constitutionally? If you're not, why not? I think that's how we begin. And we've been doing that for years. And that's the only way we can keep the Constitution in our republic intact. And you see the last State of the Union, half Congress sat down and half of those guys are socialist Marxists. Here's a question. How can that be possible in the United States of America? And even now, as we're talking, we have a Marxist running for mayor of New York City. How does that work? I mean, go figure. I mean, it's like you running for mayor of Moscow. I mean, does that make sense?
No.
How does that work? And so I think the good folks, you're right, have got complacent and have gone to sleep. They don't want to protect the good life. And I think that's the thing that we try to do, is get people educated and activated.
I think you've kind of summed up. I mean, you brought my thought full circle while I was just rambling on and on about the Nobel Peace Prize talk and stopped talking about it. I think that's the underlying, now that I feel like I'm in a therapy session, the underlying part of my angst was, listen, we got elections to win. We have a lot of other things to accomplish in this country, and getting all spun up about whether some globalist butthead gives us a trophy. Who the heck cares, man? The country is still ready to be saved, and we've got to save it and stop worrying about getting a trophy on the playground. And I think you kind of brought that out of me, that's what's frustrating me. All this talk about the Nobel Peace Prize, man, we got a long ways to that 2026 election, and Donald Trump has brought the hammer down. But believe me, they will come after him. They will come after his cabinet. They will come after anybody who was loyal or served in that administration with a vengeance if they get back in power. We have to get all the way across the finish line here.
Yes, we really do. There's some very important governor races, and certainly there's a lot of House races now. They're up for re-election, and there's some ones that can teeter either way. So we figured it's about 1 or 2 seat advantage right now, depending. But that's what we see, and you're exactly right. There's we have a lot of issues in our own country, and I applaud the president to be, a peacemaker. But we have a lot of issues here in the United States. As I lived in Europe and traveled around the world for 4 or 5 years, as I can tell you, so goes the world, so goes the United States, so goes the world. And they look upon us. And if we're the beacon of freedom and hope, and if we dwindle, the rest of the world goes down the drain. So stay home and let's work on our own issues. Our Constitution says, do not get involved in foreign entanglements. And we can't afford to do that, because if we do, it's almost a no-win policy, and we destroy our economy in the interim. So stay focused on home, not an isolationist, but stay focused at home and all the issues you mentioned. But our job is to get activated again.
Yeah.
Because we're in for a race next year like you've never seen before. They want their power back, Jimmy.
They want their power back, and they don't like being on the receiving end of some of the policies. They weaponized the justice system, and suddenly they found that some of the people that were prosecuting violated some laws themselves. Well, I guess if no one's above the law, then no one's above the law. Let me ask you, so 2026, we got to get activated. We got to stop this crap of talking about Nobel Peace Prizes. So stop it. Focus on the prize. The next prize we got to get to is 2026. Some states do have some elections. Virginia, you mentioned. New Jersey has a governor's race. That one looks like it's a very tight race.
Georgia.
Give me your thoughts on, a lot of times if a Democrat wins or several Democrat wins, they say that's going to trigger what it's going to be like in the real midterms in 2026. I'm not sure that trend follows, but how important is it that 2025, the next 30 days, some of these elections go the conservative way?
Well, I think that's a good telltale sign of what the future looks like and how active people, in, as I mentioned, in the neighborhoods and the byways are active. But of course, if the media, which is controlled, if they want to play the left side, they'll work real hard on that and say, "See, this is a trend, the big blue wave," But I think they'll overplay their hand, perhaps. But I hope it wakes people up. And that's all I could say is I can't say that enough. Is that complacency reigns the day, and we've been here before. Remember that the last election when Obama showed up, and so or Biden, and that's just kind of where we're at. And yes, they'll talk about machines cheating, but 29% of registered voters don't go vote, and of course we lose elections by only a handful of votes, 10, 20,000 votes, whatever it is. And think about that one for a minute. Registered voters say, "Oh, it's not worth it. It's systems are rigged," and they count on that. So you got a combination of a couple of things here. The key is you got to get activated. You got to own it. Why give your country away to liberals and leftists? You don't have to do that. So why give it away? So get activated. It's important. It's very important.
You're listening to the voice, you're listening to the podcast version of the show. Later, where you don't see it on the screen, scrolling, Wayne Murrow is the CEO of the John Birch Society, has played a critical role in training and reorganizing the John Birch Society field staff to become more effective educators and really refocus in prior to becoming the CEO. He held several senior leadership roles within Fortune 500 companies in the healthcare industry and across sundry markets. And he's now, again, the CEO of the John Birch Society. Wayne, you have kind of re-envisioned the John Birch Society. Is the re-envisioning of it or the redirection of it or the refocus of it, is that so that we can recognize that, keep our eyes on the prize and not get distracted in some of the ancillary details out there?
Absolutely. We're very active on social media. And if you send me, your producer sends me your email, I'll send you a copy of our magazine. It's called The New American. And as a matter of fact, we're actually having that, it's actually distributed now in Europe in multiple languages because the Europeans, as we're watching them burn at the crisp, especially the UK, and the only news they get of the United States is, get ready for this, it's the New York Times and CNN.
Wow.
That's how they base their news. So we now open the door and says, no, this is really what's going on. And they appreciate that fact. So our job is to educate globally what's happening, including South America. But, we have our website, jbs.org. You can go a free course on the Constitution. I mentioned a place to find out how your legislators vote, which is the freedomindex.org, and our magazine, thenewamerican.com. We even have an online school from kindergarten to high school to teach your kids how to write cursive and do math and read and be a thinker, versus a robot.
Yeah.
So the whole thing is education is the key. That's critical. And you have to get activated to save your country. You want to protect the good life. You have to spend, a little time to do that.
Yeah.
You really do.
Wayne Murrow, jbs.org, thefreedomindex.org, a lot of resources. And again, we cannot grow complacent. Stop all this nonsense. I beseech you, therefore, brother and sister, stop chasing all these silly rainbows of Nobel Peace Prizes and just keep your eye on the prize, and that is saving our great republic. And there's a lot of opportunities and tools at jbs.org. And if you want to learn more about your lawmakers, go to thefreedomindex.org or jbs.org. Wayne, appreciate you hopping in, listening to my ramblings, and I appreciate you being on the program today. God bless you, and we will talk again soon, I am sure. All right, we have the headlines of the day. I've already gotten the Nobel Peace Prize stuff off my chest. I feel better about that. Go back and watch it because I won't bore everybody with my diatribe again. Middle East ceasefire is holding. What they're expecting is that these hostages, the Israeli Defense Force is now pulling back to what they call the yellow line, which would leave them with 53% occupation of the Gaza Strip. And while they're pulling back, the Gaza terrorists are supposedly rounding up, getting the bodies and or the humans ready to release, and the release of the hostages is expected to come sometime Monday or Tuesday. So it's a 72-hour window that is now, clock is starting to tick. It is amazing. We'll talk about this another day. But the coalition that came together is kind of getting some analysis. You had Donald Trump, you had Witkoff there, you had Jared Kushner there, but the president's ability to get Qatar and Saudi Arabia, and a lot of these countries don't necessarily like each other, to build this coalition, it really is stunning. This isn't just about the war between Israel and Gaza that started October 7th. This is an attempt, and I say it's an attempt at what we would call lasting peace. This is, all these protesters have been saying free Palestine, free Palestine. If this works out, Palestine is, quote, free, and it's going to be free not because terrorists are running it, but because a peace committee is kind of put in charge, and Hamas has been dispatched to the ash heap of history. So it's going to be a very interesting thing, but the overall is not just ending the war, but the real perspective of is that this is an attempt at lasting peace, and President Trump seemingly has done it and built this coalition that with rookies, with business guys, Witkoff, Kushner, Marco Rubio. I mean, not necessarily these longtime diplomats that have been going to Belgium and Brussels and Switzerland, the United Nations all the time for 30 years. John Kerry, they all lectured us. John Bolton all lectured us. There has to be a two-state solution. All this stuff. All their policies failed, and Donald Trump somehow has seemingly pulled this off. Again, time is ticking. We shall see, and we hope it lasts, but it's going to be, it's just fascinating to watch the behind the scenes, how the sausage was made and how Donald Trump has pulled this together against all odds, because a lot of folks, they said there's only one way to do it, and it's the way that everybody was doing it, whether the Republican administration of the State Department or Democrat. They all had the same solution in mind, the same path forward, and really the difference between the two is whether or not you criticized Israel this much or this much. And if you watch the last several weeks, Donald Trump has been kind of harsh on Benjamin Netanyahu, but they have a friendship where iron sharpened iron, and they got it all done. So that's going to be a very interesting story to be told of what really happened behind the scenes. All right, coming up, Michael Letts, our Invest USA friend, is going to be on the show 8:45 every Friday morning. Sherry Cree, one of our great sponsors, comes on the show. She'll be up here in just a moment. Michael Letts, let's bring him to the stage. Good morning, Michael. How are you, sir?
Doing great, Jimmy. Always a privilege to be with you. We thank you for the opportunity.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. Delilah said I'm being cranky this morning, being a little fussy, so I'm trying to pleasant myself up. Maybe I just don't have enough coffee. I mean, I'm not as bad as that governor's gubernatorial candidate, Sherry Porter from California, but evidently I've been a little bit fussy here on the program today.
I don't think you're capable of being like the candidate for governor in California. Susan is something else. I was on a Fox News yesterday, and they asked me about her. I said, just thank God I'm not married to her.
Yeah. I keep hearing now, there's one story that she threw hot water and mashed potatoes at her husband. And,
he did.
And then I hear that she's single and she's available. And I'm like, well, no wonder she's single. She threw boiling water on the fella. No, I'm not surprised she's single, but and evidently the woman has reproduced, and she said her little daughter on election night started crying and said, "Mommy, Donald Trump has won. What if I need to get an abortion?" I'm thinking, there's no 11-year-old girl that normally would ask that question of her mom at 11 or 12. Mom, he got elected. Now, if I get raped, if I get raped, then I can't have the abortion. No kid does that unless you've raised some kid to be awful. That's just weird. You've destroyed that kid if that kid really asks that question.
Well, I think, Jimmy, you hit the nail on the head. That's just not even conceivable that a kid be thinking along those lines. This is what you call my emotional moment. Let me say this in the cameras, try to generate sympathy for my position with children. And she made up the story.
Yeah, made it up. All right, real quick, talk about law and order in this country. We talked, I think, earlier this week regarding the law and order that needs to be restored to Chicago and Portland and these cities. But we also have had a weaponized justice system that is also part of the law and order that we have in this country. And our weaponized justice system, people were literally running for attorney general or district attorney or various levels of office, and they were running saying, elect me, and I will go and prosecute this person, that person, because I don't like them. No one's above the law. And whenever you start casting stones, you better be very careful, because as grandma used to tell me, be careful before you point your finger, Michael. There's always three pointing back at you.
Exactly.
And it looks like Letisha James, it doesn't look like it's a trumped up charge, if you will. I guess the final charge was that she signed a loan that said this was going to be a home that she was going to live in, whether partially or whatever. It was going to be her home. But then on her tax return, she was filing that this was an investment property and a rental property. Those are two different things. And those are fraudulent. You're either defrauding the IRS, or you're defrauding your mortgage company on your interest rate.
Well, in this particular case, she was doing both. She was defrauding them both. And, it's very clear she had a primary residency. This is what she told the IRS and HUD in New York. She had to have a primary residence there. She couldn't have run for Attorney General of New York. She didn't have a primary residence. Then she bought this home in Virginia, and on the HUD application, because you have to clarify, is this your primary residency or is it a rental? Because they give you a different interest rate. The same thing they do with the taxation rate. And she knew that and didn't want to pay the difference in taxes and the difference in the interest rate. So she put down, marked, and signed. This is the key, Jimmy. It's her signature. She's not arguing that's not on her signature. She signed on the bottom line that was the accurate truth, that the Virginia home was her primary, so she should get a lower interest rate and lower taxation. And then, of course, as you said, when it comes tax time, how do I reduce my taxes? Well, if it's a business and it's rental property, I get to write it off. So it quickly became from a primary home residency to a business, and she took that. Now, what is the position she's taking now, Jimmy? She knows she's guilty. And when I say guilty, this is not a 2-day sentence. This is up to 10 years federal prison. But what she's saying is this: well, the only reason you looked at it was because I had the backbone to go after Trump. If I hadn't gone after Trump, nobody would have looked at this record, and nobody would have cared. She's missing the whole point. She is the Attorney General, Jimmy. She is the top law enforcement officer in New York. And she doesn't care whether she broke the law or not. I don't care about the circumstance, whether it gives you less money, more money, whether if you hadn't said anything, nobody would have looked at it. The fact that you deliberately broke the law when you took an oath to be the top prosecutor to uphold the law, in and of itself should make her bring her for impeachment charges and have her removed for the Attorney General's office. Just like the guy that's running for Attorney General in Virginia, who said, look, if I can get some bullets, I'd like to shoot my opponent. You're going to give that kind of power to top law enforcement authority, the person that's mentally unstable? People have got to wake up and realize that their words and their actions have consequences, Jimmy.
It's also fascinating that she's saying the justice system has been weaponized, and yet she ran an entire campaign saying she will go after Trump and his family and lock him up the rest of his life. The weaponization of our justice system is a sad and sick thing. And if this is just a weaponization charge against Letisha James, drop it and let her walk the streets. I don't want that. I don't want our justice system weaponized, but it's just real rich that she's complaining about being targeted because of who she is and what she stood for, when she campaigned on targeting someone as a campaign slogan. She was going to target someone because of who he was and what he stood for. So again, I don't want weaponization of the justice system. I don't want Letisha James locked up under some trumped up charge that she's not guilty of, but I don't necessarily think she has much of, I guess, integrity in lecturing us about weaponization, when the thing she's complaining about now is the thing that she did in spades.
You're exactly right, Jim. She has actually no moral authority to lecture anybody, because here I get back to the issue. It doesn't make any difference whether the Trump DOJ, Department of Justice, whether it been the Biden, it would make a difference who it was. If you broke the law, and it's not even gray, kind of like, I ran what I thought was a yellow light, you're telling me it was red. It was a split-second difference, just debate about when it actually turned red. That's one thing. This is black and white. You knew what you were claiming. You swore to the fact that it was true. You knew it wasn't when you did that, and you signed it anyway. And then you want to say you're the top prosecutor or law enforcement officer for the state of New York. Jimmy, that just sends a horrible signal. If we're going to buy that kind of rhetoric, then what moral authority does any prosecutor not have? Because I don't know whether you're lying or whether you're being truthful. So why are you coming after me?
Yeah. Michael Letts is my guest. Michael, of course, is investusa.org, is this great organization. Michael, let me switch forward to a couple of other topics that I wanted to hit with you. One of those is the story that a man with explosives was on a cathedral or church in Washington, D.C., was ready to target Catholics. He also was ready to target Jewish people, SCOTUS. There's all sorts of violence of these people percolating with explosive devices out there. And I want to talk about the political violence that's out there. And I want to couple that with the sentencing of the guy that was attempting to assassinate Brett Kavanaugh, given a very light sentence that's going to be appealed. If you want to deter some of this stuff, there has to be some real accountability, whether it's a weaponization of the justice system or political violence. So far, no one's been held accountable. Even the guy that was going to kill Brett Kavanaugh, the Supreme Court justice, he was given a slap on the wrist for the crime that he was actually working to commit. We've got political violence that's unhinged right now. We got to get some accountability going.
Well, you're exactly right, Jimmy. I mean, we work our way backwards. This sentence for the attempted plotting of the assassination of Justice Kavanaugh just simply reinforces to the criminal element. And when I say criminal element, unfortunately, Jimmy, I'm having to expand that definition to include the leftist liberal ideology, because what they're doing is they're so promoting violence and hatred that it is turned out into violence. And so by them using this sentence, it once again reinforces in the criminal element's mind that there really aren't any consequences. I mean, if you get popped so lightly, Jimmy, that you really can't feel the effect of it. And it encourages others to do so. And then when you take a look at what's going on, you mentioned D.C., that's an incredibly interesting story. I had broke that last Sunday when we discovered it. Fox didn't pick it up till Wednesday. I was kind of surprised that nobody wanted to air it till Wednesday. But here was the issue, it was 3 locations that we found incendiary and explosive devices. It was the Catholic Church, so a second Catholic church about 2 miles down the road, and the Red Fire Station, which is right behind the Capitol complex in the White House. Now, when I reported it, at the time, we had just discovered small amount, 4 incendiaries and 4 explosive devices. Even that, though, Jimmy, was enough to take out the entire church, level it in half the block as well. The end of the investigation in the what we call the Red Mass situation, Catholic Church, it was 200 explosive and incendiary devices. That would have taken out a lot more than just a couple blocks. Now, here's what you need to keep in mind. What is the Red? It was staged for October the 7th. The Red Mass is where the Catholic community holds a mass for prayer for peace of Israel, peace in the Middle East, and recognizes those killed on October 7th by Hamas. They had invited and received confirmation that the majority of the Supreme Court justices were going to attend that memorial service. So this was planned. It was in a tent right in front, right on the steps, which is not unusual. A lot of times in these special masses, they let people come in, what I call vendors. I'm not talking about selling, but provide information, literature, etc. And this was a new tent nobody recognized. So they went up and asked him, church officials did, who he was and why he was there. He got combative, so they called the police. The police asked him, he got more combative. And as they were grabbing him to say, here, we're going to, you can't be, this is trespassing, we're going to remove you. He said, you better not touch me because I've got explosives. When he said that, they grabbed him. They pulled him out then, but they brought in the bomb squad. And that's when when I got the call, they initially found 4 explosive devices and 4 incendiary devices. After they continued to unpackage all his boxes and stuff that he brought there, they discovered another 196.
It's frightening how the hyperbole or the mouths of the left continue to incite violence. I mean, we're not just a few months down the road where Elon Musk, who used to be one of their friends, partnered with Donald Trump on just some government efficiency stuff, and he became the enemy. And you can't just have an enemy if you're in the American left. You have to firebomb their cars, dealerships right up the road in Colorado. A lot of folks were arrested for firebombing Teslas and Tesla dealerships. It was vandalizing Teslas in parking lots. it's really amazing how the American left, that if you have a differing opinion, violence seems to be kind of an option. Demonization definitely is an option. And Michael, I'm not sure the long-term effect of dialing that back, because evidently the politicians aren't going to shut their mouths. They're not going to stop. They're not going to stop inciting this. So I guess the other way is on the law enforcement, people that get triggered up by their politicians raising funds and using nasty words to describe people. You're going to be held accountable if you follow that nonsense. Since the politicians won't dial back the rhetoric on the left, we're going to have to throw the book at some people and say, you know what, you may like that politician, but do you want to go to jail being their defender on the street?
And, you know, Julian, quickly point out what we just talked about, what was discovered on Sunday. We weren't talking about even an active shooter shooting 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 people, as tragic as it is. We're talking about now people with explosive devices wanting to take out entire blocks, hundreds, thousands of people at a time. This is where we've graduated to. Let me throw in a quick positive in here. Thank God that D.C. woke up and allowed Trump to do what he did with bringing in federalized troops. Why is that? Because we were able to get the crime element under control and begin to restore, going back to gathering data and information and intel, and discover this before it actually occurred. Otherwise, we'd be in a tragedy today. We'd be in another 9/11.
Yeah. Michael, this brings us to Invest USA, the great organization that you're a part of, because our law enforcement officers, first responders, whether it's ICE or Department of Homeland Security or the local police department or the local sheriff's department, they're out enforcing the laws. That's all these people are doing. This is enforcing the laws. If you don't like the laws of deportation, then go change the laws. But they're enforcing the laws. The laws say you can't be here. That's all they're doing. And for enforcing the law, which is actually upholding their constitutionally sworn duty to protect and defend the Constitution, their lives are being threatened by these leftists out there. And Invest USA says these people are crazy. We got to keep these men and women safe that are simply upholding the Constitution. They're not racially profiling. It's not about race. It's not about color. It's not about creed. It is about the law of the land. And law enforcement officers, military, are supposed to defend the Constitution. And you're helping keep those people safe because the American left is putting them in danger.
Oh, you're exactly right. We need to make sure they're properly taken care of. I'll give one amusing little story for you. You know, the NFL decided as part of its halftime Super Bowl entertainment, they would get Bad Bunny to come perform. He is known, his primary claim to fame is he is anti-ICE, anti-law enforcement, pro-defund, pro-Black Lives Matter, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it was kind of like an insult from the NFL to our law enforcement community. So what did we decide to do? We turned the tables on him, Jimmy. We thought, okay, well, who's going to be his biggest audience? Illegals are probably going to come to want to hear him because that's who he is. That's what he believes. So we have decided to implement and send as many ICE agents to stand at every gate when you walk into the Super Bowl. And we're going to be checking IDs. And we're going to really hope we're going to have a roundup that day. It's going to be a great opportunity for ICE, and we thank the NFL for providing that opportunity for us.
Well, you know, if there's an illegal getting into that stadium and can afford a Super Bowl ticket, then I don't know why we're squawking about their health care being taken away. They can go pay cash to the doctor because those tickets are expensive, so they can get a cash plan going on.
But you understand, Jimmy, our tax dollars help subsidize. That's part of their food money. You know, I mean, you and I are paying for that Super Bowl ticket for every one of them that gets one.
Yeah. Yep. Michael, if folks want to help you in your mission and your cause to protect our men and women that are simply upholding and defending the Constitution, they can go to investusa.org, investusa.org, and it's protective gear. It's not just the vest. I mean, there's a lot of things that you're providing. Kind of break that down, because those are not in law enforcement. Say, isn't it just a bulletproof vest? That's it. It's more than that. Explain.
Well, you've got a number of different things. I'll give it real quick. First of all, most officers do now today have what we call a concealable vest. That's the vest under their shirt that protects with a firearm. They don't have an active shooter vest, which protects against rifle range. So we provide active shooter vests that have titanium plates to make sure. We provide also the necessary neck wear, helmet wear, shields, et cetera, to make sure that they can defend themselves from rifle ranges. Because now what you're seeing, Jimmy, just take a look at any riot. We're seeing people getting more and more vocal, and not just vocal, more violent. They're not using pistols or handguns anymore. They're bringing out the shotguns and the AK-47s, and our people don't have a chance against that unless we give them the right protection.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what to do. Go to investusa.org, make a donation to Michael Lett's great organization, and it's all about protecting these men and women that are at harm as they're simply defending the Constitution. They're upholding the laws. If you don't like the laws, go change the laws. But in the meantime, this is the law of the land that you cannot be here illegally, and that's all they're trying to do is defend those laws. And they're under threat for doing so. Help keep them safe on the street. InvestUSA.org. Michael, let's have a great weekend. We'll talk again, I'm sure, probably next week, sir.
Look forward to it. God bless America. Jimmy, keep it good.
You got it. Michael Letts, InvestUSA.org, InvestUSA.org. All right, running about 5 minutes behind schedule here. It looks like 6 minutes behind schedule. I don't know why, but we are. But good to have all of you here on the program. As we do every Friday at this time, we welcome in Sherry Cree, our great realtor friend on the show. You hear me talk about her every day. HomesWithSherry.com, HomesWithSherry.com. By the way, keep those comments coming. I'll read all of them here by the end of the show. As we do the meme roulette, we'll read all of those comments that are coming in. Some of you commenting on my comments regarding Pope Leo. Some of you commenting on the Middle East ceasefire and the Nobel Peace Prize hype. We'll talk about all that. So keep those comments coming. We'll get them up on the screen. HomesWithSherry.com is her website, HomesWithSherry.com. She joins us every Friday at 8:45, except I've yapped so long. Now we're 7 minutes late. Sherry, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Jimmy. Happy to be here.
Glad to have you here. Sherry, I've got a question for you. We talk about getting ready to sell a home, buy a home, and we all think, man, that part of my house is going to really get me value. I've got a hot tub in the back. That's going to add value. I've got this happening over here. Listen, I get sold all the time that people come knock on my door if they can get through the moat and the alligators, but they'll all often stop you and say, sir, why don't you do this to your home? And one of the things they're always pitching is solar panels on the house. You put solar panels on, it's going to really increase that, lower your electric bill, your utility, and it's also going to raise the resale value of your home. I want you to break down for our listeners and viewers today the myths and the truth about solar panels on your home. Is it a good thing? I mean, yes, it may lower the bills, but is it going to add anything, or are you going to eat that money later on? Break down the solar panel gimmick. Is it a scam or is it a good thing?
Well, first of all, I want to clarify, I'm all about using solar energy to create electricity. And I am an outdoor person. I love to be outside. I love hiking, skiing, playing tennis, playing golf. I call myself solar-powered individual.
You're solar-powered, Sherry.
Yeah, solar-powered person. So if the sun's shining, I'm very happy and I'm very active and I get all the energy. So, that being said, purchasing or having a solar panel on your home, is it a good financial investment? That's another question. And first of all, I want to just, go over how it works. So you get solicited on putting a solar panel on your home. And there are different financial arrangements, but basically the concept is they're going to come assess your house, the direction and pitch of the roof, and design how solar panel can be configured on your home. And then you have an option to, pay cash and purchase, and then you fully own it, and you enjoy the energy it produced to offset your energy consumption. Sometimes you have overage, the extra, not huge, but the extra income from bringing back the energy back to grid. Another option is, I've seen the solar panels costing between 30 and 50 grand. And then not many people want to pay cash just, for that. So you can get financing. It is just like, getting a loan to purchase a vehicle. You borrow 30 grand, 40 grand to purchase the solar panel. So there's a lien on your property because solar panel is attached to your home. And another option is we call it lease option. So in fact, maybe 15 years ago that myself, with my previous home, we did a lease, 20-year lease of solar panel. We didn't have to pay anything out of our pocket. They will set it up and then we pay lease fee that every month, and then that was less than the energy that panel produce on my home. So we thought it was a good idea. We don't have to put anything out of pocket, and we get little like a differential between the energy they consume versus the lease cost. So if you pay $100 per month on the lease, and if your solar panel produces $125 worth of energy, then you're making $25.
Yeah,
That we thought at the time, but maybe 7 years later, when we were selling the house, it was a hot market. It was a seller's market, so it wasn't a huge issue. But what we didn't know was the buyer didn't want the solar, and then buyer didn't want to continue paying the lease payment, even if there's a $25. It's not big, but
Sure.
the benefit to it, they didn't not want to take over the lease. So we thought we had an option to detach the solar panel and then take it to our new home, the next home. But turns out it's a different. It's from Excel to United Power. It's a different district, so we could not do that. So we ended up having to pay for the rest of the 20-year lease in order to sell the home.
Wow.
So
you thought it was going to work out, and even the good deal didn't work out. So the bring it all home when you have buyers, or if you walk into a house and see solar panels on there, is that something that's going to benefit the buyer? Is that going to be a negotiating factor for the seller? Who is it a good idea overall?
So honestly, as a realtor, we get seller contact us to list the home, and then when I go preview the home and then see the solar panel, my heart sink. Okay. First thing, okay. That's the honest reaction.
Okay.
Ooh, there's a solar, and then my question is, did you pay cash, fully owned? There's no loan, there's no lease. Well, then maybe it adds the value for the sale of the home. However, is it sale gonna be 30-40 grand more? No, not $1 to dollar that you invested. And then second thing is that if they have a lease on the solar, lease to own, I set the expectation for the seller, you have to pay it off on closing. No, or if they have a loan, that took a loan out to purchase the solar, you have to pay off your loan balance at closing, because no buyer, especially right now, it's a buyer's market, wants to take over somebody's lease commitment or pay the rest of the money that somebody else paid for, that borrowed for. So the solar could really trip successful sale. And then the expectation is the seller is not getting a benefit in the sale.
Sherry, there's a question on the screen. People are commenting in the comments about this. It's a great topic. Is there any age of a solar system that you should watch out for? You said they're 20-year lease. I'm thinking if you have that on your roof for 20 years, I'm thinking the technology by the time you pay for it is probably outdated. I'm not even sure that things will last 20 years. If it's a brand new solar panel system, is that even better for you, or is it all kind of the same? Just try to avoid it.
Well, I'm sure the technology advances. So, 20-year-old solar probably be less, optimized than 5-year-old solar. Yeah. But this is really, I'm not an expert on the technology side of it, but is this a good financial decision? If you plan to live there for, 30 years, and then your benefit, financial benefit that you gain from having a solar energy production is far exceeds your investment. Yeah. Yes, but that's not very common case scenario.
So it's I love how you phrase it. You walk up to a house, you're going to preview a home, you're going to list the house, and you look up on the roof when you pull up in the driveway or on the street and you see solar panels. You're like, oh, this is not good. It may be good for the person living in the house, but for the transfer, the buying, the selling of the house, it's going to cause some problems because anybody coming in says, listen, I don't want to pay for that. You put them up there. I'm not paying for that. And then the person in the house is going, no, it's very valuable. You're going to save you a lot of money. You should pay this off. I owe $30,000 on it. And it's just not going to work out that well. So be very, very, very cautious. Whichever the three kind of signups you do on the solar panels, is there any other thing that comes to mind like that adds value to a home? If you're going to spend money of a home, it's not the solar panels on the roof. That's going to cause you problems. Is it having that kitchen updated? Is it a hot tub? Is it a modern bathroom? I mean, dollar for dollar, what's the best thing the person can put into their home that they're going to get back on? It's not the solar panels on the roof.
Yeah, and then it's case by case depending on the house. But rule of thumb is the kitchen remodel, bathroom remodel. Those are the things that bring definitely, because just think of it, as a buyer's perspective, when you're buying your home, kitchen and bathroom, that's where that the most of the buyer want to be impressed or excited about. Now there are different things you can do, but just remodeling the kitchen just for the sale is not something that I recommend. If you're remodeling the kitchen to enjoy beautiful kitchen on your home, and then later on, when you're selling the home, yes, that will bring, sustain the value. But if you are thinking about selling the house 3 months from now, and then if you ask me, what should I do to the house? Any kind of remodel, like, involves massive investment, that's never going to give you a dollar-to-dollar return.
Yeah. On those things, if you're going to try to remodel before someone else buys it in 3 months, maybe you just do a little concession on the purchase price so that the person buying the home can come in and make it like they want, as opposed to what you thought they may want. And that may actually be more beneficial. There's a lot of, I guess, strategy. We talked about this when I talked about Sherry Cree. We're going to call her solar powered Sherry from now on. When we talk about solar powered Sherry, who's a strategist, there's a lot of S's in that. We got to make a title here. Solar powered Sherry, the strategist. There's a lot of strategies here, and I keep repeating the one you said about if you're going to sell in the spring or next year, get your photography done. You can help people set up that because the green, the grass is still green. The trees still have some color on them, so there's still some bloom on the flowers. It's a great time for photography. Think twice about the solar panels. Think twice
Jimmy,
about
can I squeeze in one thing?
Go ahead.
So I have a special focus in serving real estate needs for seniors and caregiving families, because they have a lot of life transitions involved. And then with the residential real estate, nobody just buys or sells for financial reasons. There's always, to meet their life needs. And recently, it just really makes me mad is I come across senior home owners. They got sold on the solar. Oh. And then one recent listing I'm working on to put on the market, it was elderly couple lived there. Wife had Alzheimer and she passed earlier this year, and husband is in poor health. So their daughter from out of state were here all summer trying to empty out the house so they can sell their house. And then, for the senior homeowners, the equity in the house is their nest egg. That's what, they can use to have a comfortable, good, last chapter of life. And then I discovered this gentleman was almost, I would call it scam, but they got sold on the solar system. They had a solar system, and he pulled out $62,000 loan to install solar system because he was convinced by a salesperson that it adds value to the house. Now, typically when the seniors own home, the home maintenance is neglected or house is not updated. There are a lot of things. If we was going to pull $60,000 loan, there are a lot of things that could have been done to the house to sell it for a good price. But unfortunately, those things not, taken
Solar's not
care
working.
of.
Yeah.
And then they have this solar system. So as a listing agent, it breaks my heart that this gentleman's equity on the house, we will do our best to sell in a distressed shape property, but a good chunk of sales proceed goes to pay off his solar.
Wow.
He still have a $55,000 balance on it.
Wow, that's what I've heard stories like this, and I'm glad you bring this to the topic because be very, very careful. If you want solar, you believe in solar, it can be a great thing, but make sure you know. I guess long term, if you're thinking I'm only going to be here 2 or 3 years, you might want to think twice about that. If you're thinking this is your forever home and this is it for you, maybe it's. Maybe that's a good thing as well. So we got questions coming in. Sherry, I got to run, but let me ask you one more question. Sometime we got to talk about, maybe we'll talk about this in the future. Somebody's asking about reverse mortgages and things like that. Maybe we'll put that on our list and we can talk about that.
That's my hot topic. Yeah, that's my expertise. So I'll talk another time.
Yeah, we'll do that next time we get together. Sherry, homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. As you hear, we talk about, there's some strategy out there that sometimes we don't think about. We just stick the solar panels up there, dump the money in the kitchen. And sometimes you need to have a bigger picture because as we've talked about with Sherry, in her website's homeswithsherry.com, as we've talked about before, your real estate can create generational wealth. And that's the strategy she wants to bring to you, but you're not going to create generational wealth with your real estate by throwing money, $62,000 of solar panels. Maybe that's not the best thing. If you want to have that generational wealth, have the strategy. And Sherry, solar-powered Sherry, the strategist. That's a lot of S's, but I like it. Homeswithsherry.com is her website. Homeswithsherry.com. That's the website, homeswithsherry.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're overtime here on the program. Doug Giles is unable to join us today. He'll be back probably next week. But I did post the photo of the Charlie Kirk portrait up in the cigar room and the studio number 2. And it's all there. Studio number 2 is a smoking cigar active studio. That's where we've filmed the Critical Mission podcast. And Charlie Kirk is now on the Wall of Greatness there. And we posted that up early in the program this past week. All right, before we go to the meme roulette, it's Friday. I know a lot of folks are ready to get out for the weekend. You enjoy the fall weather here in Colorado. By the way, if you want to, Homes with Sherry, if you're on the I-25 corridor in Colorado, that's where you go to the website. If you're outside of the area and say, man, I wish I knew somebody like Sherry that had that strategy mindset. Listen, she's happy to give you a referral. If you're outside of her service area in Colorado, give her a call, homeswithsherry.com, and she'll give you a referral. Earlier this week, I've told to the story of John Dedew. I talked about him yesterday. The young man that ended up with a sponsor when he was about 8 years old, 10 years old, and is now serving on a peacekeeping mission through the Rwanda Defense Force. And his whole testimony of just God working out his life in a special way. I got, just before the show came on, I got an email that came in from another young man. I'll tell his story next week. His name is I can't even say it, Vedeste. And he just actually yesterday graduated from trade school. We sent him to a welding trade school, and his life's been transformed. His sister went to a sewing trade school, and he begins a brand new job. This would be a kid that would have been a street boy for the last many years. He went to our school as long as he could, and now we put him in a trade school. He just graduated a welding trade school, and when they go to a trade school, my friends, these kids get all the welding gear. They get their masks, their gloves, everything they need, the face shields. They get their machines, and we set them up in a business, and then they go to an apprenticeship where they learn how to run the business, where they learn how the art of welding. We've had kids go through the welding program that we send them to. We've had kids that have they're like international travelers there. They'll go to other areas in Rwanda, other areas in Africa, Central Africa, and they'll get jobs making good money as welders there. And these are kids that would have been street kids, but we put them in a trade school program. Listen, when you give to Rivers Promise, you're doing that. Next week, I'll tell this great story. I've got a photo of this young man that just graduated yesterday. and it just came in before the show, or I loaded now. He's got his cap and gown on, and he's ready to go. And I just sent one of my sponsored kids to trade school. I think this is my 4th kid that I'm sending to trade school. I sent a young girl that I sponsored, a young lady now, since she was a little girl. I sent her to trade school last year. Trade school cost about $1,200. This is all in $1,200. I sent this girl to trade school last year. I just sent the young man to trade school. They all run. I've sent so many kids to trade school that I forget who starts when. But anyway, next week I got more photos to show you, more show and tell about our work there in Rwanda. If you want to make a donation today, riverspromise.org. Riverspromise.org. You can find out more about the trade school. Maybe just $10. $10 provides a small child a school uniform when they're not sponsored. Sponsorship gives them a uniform, but we've got most of the kids in our school, a lot of the kids in our school, I won't say most of them, I have to do the math, are not sponsored, and we can get them the uniform that they need home. It's riverspromise.org, riverspromise.org, riverspromise.com, riverspromise.org, and we would love to have your participation indeed. Make a donation today. Any gift is a great gift, and we'd love to have you participate in the work we're doing there, giving hope orphans, giving hope to children. If you want to know more about the organization, go to the website. There's video. There's a documentary that producer Chad put together when he was there. Lots of assets and resources, and feel free to just reach out, and any donations appreciated. riverspromise.org. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hold in my hand as I bump the camera here this morning, the table with the camera on it. One of the cameras is screwed up, but I got the globe in my hand, and that means it's time for meme roulette. And so let's do it. Round and round the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows in the stolen memes section of the show. I always love this. This meme with Leonardo DiCaprio holding out the glass. Is that from Titanic? Well, it's a gift that keeps on giving. Here's to those who are seeing how long they can freeze before turning on the heat for the first time. That's me. Producer Chad was over at the Casa the other day and the other evening, and it was a cold day. It had been a rainy, cold day, lows in the 40s in Colorado, which is fall-like weather. And my house, on the thermostat on the wall downstairs, I think it said 61. And I'm like, that's perfect. That really is a fantastic temperature to keep your house at. And it's free. It's just natural cooling. And when do I turn the heater on for the first time? We should this should be a pool, like a bet, an over and under. I will wait for a while to do it. I will wait for a while to turn the thermostat on. But yeah, that's a great meme, because that's me. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from. No, producer Chad probably has his furnace already on. He likes to be very warm and toasty. When he goes to the nursing home, man, he's going to be one of those guys that has his room up to 90 degrees in the home there. 9 out of 10 husbands agree that their wives are always right. The 10th husband hasn't been seen since the study was conducted. Some of you guys got problems. That's all I can say. I ain't got one. Round and around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. Babylon B is where this one comes from. Authorities warn that Katie Porter has grown to 600 feet and is currently rampaging through San Francisco. Wow, isn't that woman's a piece of work? Oh, isn't she, though, everything you kind of picture the modern-day Democrat woman to be? I mean, I don't mean to paint with a broad swath, but these people screaming that Donald Trump got elected, Letisha James with anger, I'll take him down. Katie Porter is the manifest image, like the poster child of who I envision as the angry modern 2025 Democrat woman. It's really, Katie Porter is she's the Democrat woman personified. Mm-hmm. So far gone are the days of Jackie O. That's a long ways away. Katie Porter ain't no Melania Trump, that's for sure. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from no one knows. This is comedian Steve Burns, so that we do know. He's a great comedian to follow online. Trump's went 2 for 3 today. His peace proposals were accepted by Hamas, Israel, but rejected by Portland. That's true. We got a peace in the Middle East, free Palestine. How about free Portland? How about free Chicago? Those are cesspools of violence. But, they don't want to. We can't keep America safe, but let's make sure Hamas and Palestine, all that place is safe. Okay. Yeah, how about free Portland? Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from no one knows. If you put a potato in the microwave and push pizza, it still comes out as a potato. Why label the buttons if they don't work? Think that through, Delilah. Think that one through. If you put the potato and you hit pizza, it's not going to come out of pizza. And so this guy's confused. Why does it say pizza if it's not going to make a pizza? You don't like that meme. All right, producer Chad, Delilah doesn't like that one. It's confused her. She's got smoke coming out of her ears like a lithium battery on an airplane right now. Round and round the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. No, he's not a real bunny, but he's actually bad. What was Marco Rubio saying in Donald Trump's ear? That might have been what he said. Remember when his George W. Bush's chief of staff came and told him the trade centers had been bombed, and Marco Rubio came and whispered in his ear and told him, "Hey, we need you to come in and talk. We're real close on this deal." If they came in and whispered in Joe Biden's ear, what would they have said? You're drooling. Something's on your chin. I don't know. They would have said something, but probably nothing profound because he wouldn't have been able to comprehend it. All right, let's see. Round and around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. What the hell are we looking at here? What in corn dog? That's what I was thinking. What in corn dog hell is going on here? Is this a real deal? These are people in the back of a moving. Oh my goodness. I don't even know what to say to this. Let's just say it. What in the corn dog hell's going on here? Is that legal? It looks like state line, Mississippi. It may be legal in Mississippi. That's a great truck. I don't know what brand it is. Looks like maybe is that a Chevy? I don't know what it is, but it looks like it's a great truck because the back suspension's holding up quite well. You put Katie Porter on that thing, it may tilt a wheel, though. It'd be bad. But about Democrats think like the microwave potato pizza meme, says Stacy. That's it. Oh, yeah. But they just think you can change the label and call it. Just call the potato pizza and eat it. Call the boy or girl if you want to. That's what the Democrats think out there. Round around the globe we go. Where we steal the memes from, no one knows. I don't know. All right. We're done, right? This is the end of the week. We resume on Monday. Hey, everybody. Thanks for being a part of the show. Next week, I do want to share some more stories from what this young man I just got. I wish I had it. I did not. It literally showed up. That's why it was a couple of seconds late. It popped in just as I was supposed to start the show, and I always have to stop and read the testimonies of the kids. And it's a young man that just finished trade school. Any gift you give, my friends, is going to be fantastic. $10, riverspromise.org. Make your Friday started off great. Riverspromise.org. Would love to hear from you today. Riverspromise.com. Check it out. Would love to have you. By the way, if you'd like to be a part of the show in sponsorship, maybe you'd like to one day have a segment, even like a Sherry Cree segment as a sponsor of the program. Maybe you'd like to have your name on the banner behind us. Maybe you'd be like to tag on all of our online materials. Whatever. Listen, there's ways to participate. And when you participate, you're supporting freedom of speech. You're supporting the First Amendment. You're supporting your right to get information from an unbiased media. At least we admit our biases when we have them. We don't pretend to be non-partial. I try to be fair, call balls and strikes, but hey, you know where I'm coming from. This is what we call infotainment, and we're glad to do it. But if you'd like to help sponsor it, info@jimmylakey.com, 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 and we can put something together. You don't have to be Colorado-based. We're Colorado-centric, but through the podcasting that we do and the live stream, etc., we can get you all over. And so whether you sell vitamins, I don't know, whether you sell cars, I don't, maybe you just want to sponsor it like it's PBS. I don't know. But if you'd like to be a part of the show, we'd love to hear from you and talk to you. info@jimmylakey.com. That will get you right into Delilah, I think, or somebody. It'll get you there. All right. If they whispered in Joe's ear, said Ray, it would have to have been, "Sir, your fly's down." That could be it. If they whispered in Joe, they didn't whisper in Joe's ear. Remember, they wrote big things in Sharpie for him. They wrote in big Sharpie out there and said, "Exit stage left." Yeah, that's your wife. Here's the photo arrow. That's what they did with Joe. All right. It's been a pleasure to be a part of the show. info@jimmylakey.com. If you'd like to reach out to us, thanks for being a part. Don't forget, like it, share it, tell your friends and neighbors, and go find us on the podcast platforms. You can look up Lakey Unleashed on the podcast platforms. Jimmy Lakey Unleashed, you'll find us. And go look for us out there, like, subscribe, because by the end of the day, thousands of earballs will have heard this show, and we appreciate everybody participating today. God bless you. God bless America. I am Jimmy Lakey. Peace. I'm out of here.